The twin moons of Virex 7 hung low over the Galactic Summit grounds, casting a silver hue over the obsidian towers that scraped the stars. 1,000 species had gathered beneath the Great Dome, their banners waving, their emissaries boasting tales of worlds where survival meant fangs, venom, or fire-breathing flora. It was the annual Deathworld Summit, an invitation-only event reserved for the most feared civilizations in the known galaxy. And someone had invited the humans. No one admitted it. Rumor said it was a clerical error, a glitch in the quantum database. Some blamed the Zorg Hathi, who enjoyed cosmic pranks. Others whispered about a rogue AI who had mistaken Earth's war documentaries for live surveillance footage. Regardless, the humans arrived. 3 ships, polished but modest, lacking even the ceremonial plasma flares most species use for grand entrances. They stepped onto the obsidian landing platform looking bewildered, out of place in their tailored uniforms and breathable fabrics. At the forefront stood Commander Elise Rourke, a former Marine with gray in her hair and the kind of gaze that measured people by the angles they held weapons. Beside her, Dr. Rena Holt, a cultural anthropologist whose glasses always slid down her nose when she was nervous. The third, a civilian consultant named Dev Malik, wore a hoodie under his official jacket and documented everything with a handheld camcorder, much to the irritation of their hosts. "What exactly are we doing here?" Dev muttered, eyes wide as he panned across a group of towering lizard folk whose skin shimmered with molten veins. Representing Earth, Rourke said, adjusting her collar, "Try not to get eaten." They were escorted past a security checkpoint manned by drone centaurs, each with a laser pike in the disposition of a traffic camera on the brink of sentience. Inside, the summit chamber was a cathedral of cosmic engineering, its walls alive with crawling glyphs and flickering constellations. Delegates loomed in their enclosures, massive arachnids cloaked in shadows, creatures made of vapor and malice, silicon predators with translucent bones. The humans were shown to a modest alcove. No one greeted them. "I think we were invited as entertainment," Rena whispered. Across the room, a Krulax general scoffed openly. His species hailed from a planet of acidic storms and 90% gravity. His neck alone could crush a grown man. "Soft-worlders," he rumbled, teeth like gravestones. "Are we to witness their feeding habits? I hear they boil plants and call it cuisine." "That's still less horrifying than your dating rituals," Dev shot back under his breath. The first council session commenced with the booming voice of the Zyrene Prime speaker, who resembled a bioluminescent eel wrapped in armor and tradition. "We welcome you to the summit. Hey, we celebrate the strength of those who have survived the universe's cruelty. Let the first cycle of challenges begin." Challenges. The word hit differently when issued by species that considered volcanic eruptions a recreational hazard. "We weren't told about challenges," Rena whispered. "Adapt," Rourke said. "It's what we do best." They weren't wrong to doubt Earth's classification. By Galactic Council standards, Earth was a Class 3 world. Mild tectonic activity, tolerable fauna, no permanent hyperpredators, an oxygen-rich atmosphere. The Krulax lived on a world where rain melted steel. The Yathek survived in solar radiation without skin. Compared to them, humans were porcelain dolls. But the summit had rules. Challenges must be accepted by all attending delegations, and humans had a seat, however accidental. The first event was a biome simulation. All delegates would be dropped into a dynamically shifting environment to test adaptability and survival instinct. "We go in with no gear?" Dev asked, alarmed, as he received a single thermal bracelet and a wafer of emergency protein paste. "We go in with experience," Rourke replied, eyeing the entrance of the simulator, a smooth obsidian arch pulsing with blue light. Inside, chaos began immediately. The terrain shifted every 10 minutes, cycling through desert heat, polar frost, swamp humidity, and gravity fluctuations. Aliens stumbled, some collapsed, others resorted to aggression. A Zyrene dissolved under acid rain. A Krulax slipped on frost and shattered his arm. The humans adapted. They improvised shelter from synthetic leaves, rationed their protein, and used a thermal bracelet as a beacon marker. Rena organized a makeshift signal system using light pulses. Dev rigged a sling for a wounded alien using strips from his hoodie. Rourke stood watch, alert, motionless, a sentinel against threats. By the third environment shift, the humans were leading a coalition of stragglers. Species that had mocked them now followed their instructions. When the simulation ended, the chamber lights returned to normal, revealing the last standing delegates. Humans, a few battered Yati, and a stunned Krulax warrior clinging to a human-made crutch. The council was silent. The Krulax general leaned forward, squinting. Is this deception? An act? No, Rourke said, voice steady. It's endurance. It's community. It's what kept us alive on our so-called soft world, a planet where the threats don't scream or growl. They freeze you in boardrooms. They starve you in silence. They break you with loss and still demand your taxes. There was a ripple of unease among the spectators. One of the vapor entities hissed something unreadable, and a datapad was passed between delegates. Footage of Earth began circulating. Volcanoes, tsunamis, combat sports, disease, psychological warfare, history books. The council started to see the mistake. Later that evening, as the humans returned to their quarters, Rena slumped onto a too-stiff couch. You think they are reconsidering our classification. Rourke sat beside her, unbuckling her boots. Doesn't matter. We came here by mistake. Let's leave them wondering if it was theirs. Outside the observation windows, stars blinked like curious eyes. The summit had more trials ahead. The humans had made it through one, and the galaxy was starting to feel afraid. The arena shimmered with artificial sunlight, rotating sky panels above simulating a dozen alien atmospheres in real time. The Deathworld Summit's second challenge was designed to be brutal, a test of endurance, psychological fortitude, and raw adaptability. Delegates had 12 hours to complete an escalating gauntlet of physically and mentally exhausting scenarios, with no external aid, no rest, and no second chances. The audience, safely tucked behind energy barriers, roared with anticipation. Commander Rourke stood at the entrance of the gauntlet, arms crossed. Her face betrayed no fear, though her jaw worked in subtle tension. Rena adjusted her wrist monitor, eyes flicking nervously to the timer counting down to 0. Dev stretched his arms like he was warming up for a marathon. He had no intention of running. Maybe this is their idea of entertainment, he muttered. See how long the soft-fleshed bipeds can dance before collapsing. Then let's give them a show, Rourke replied flatly. The horn sounded, and the gates opened. The first chamber dropped them into a swamp. Thick, sulphurous mist hung heavy, obscuring vision, masking sound. Footing was treacherous, the water deceptively deep. Creatures with too many eyes watched from reeds. The Krulax team powered through with sheer strength, leaving a wake of churned mud. A few smaller species panicked and retreated. The humans, however, moved deliberately, testing each step, using strip vines as makeshift stability poles. Rena led, her academic mind mapping terrain like a living puzzle. Dev kept low, spotting trip hazards and leading others around them. When they emerged from the muck, coughing and slick with green grime, a council monitor lit up, Team Earth, top 5. The second chamber was a climb. A sheer cliff wall extended into low orbit, the atmosphere thinning with every meter. Gravity fluctuated violently, pulling muscles and testing internal organs. The Krulax slowed. One slipped and fell, caught midair by a drone. The crowd hissed in disappointment. The humans didn't pause. Rourke's military training kicked in. She found handhold where others saw blank stone. Dev followed, knuckles white, muttering sarcasm under his breath like a lifeline. Rena, though not athletic, applied geometric logic to pick the most efficient path. Halfway up, a Chlorvaxi climber collapsed, her joints buckling under stress. The rules permitted aid, but offering it meant losing time. Rourke looked down, then climbed sideways. She reached the Chlorvaxi, strapped a tether from a harness to the alien's exobelt, and gave one push upward. Don't quit now, she said. The Chlorvaxi nodded, too breathless for words. The humans reached the summit third. A Krulax warrior grunted at them as they passed. This time, there was no laughter. The next trial was psychological. A white room, featureless, timeless. Each participant alone, confronted by reality that shifted shape based on their mind. For Rena, it was her office at university, burned to cinders, her life's work erased. For Dev, it was a blank page, the pressure of expectation crushing. For Rourke, It was a battlefield, the screams of soldiers she couldn't save echoing through endless corridors. The room tested more than memory. It whispered. It prodded. It replayed grief on a loop, feeding off despair like an invisible parasite. Some species went catatonic. Others lashed out violently. But humans adapted. Pain, after all, was nothing new. Rena curled into a corner, crying quietly, then pulled a notebook from her pocket and began sketching the room, forcing her fear into structure. Dev sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing deep. He mumbled old movie lines, every word grounding him. Rourke stood still, letting the screams wash over her like wind, refusing to move until they faded. When the walls receded and light returned, the humans walked out on their own feet. A murmur ran through the delegates. "They're unnaturally resistant," a Yati observer muttered. "Their pain tolerance is psychological, not physiological. That makes it harder to predict." "They are not stronger," a Kulak's analyst countered. "They just refuse to stop." The final gauntlet was designed to break even the sturdiest, a desertscape of shifting dunes and hallucination-inducing heat, with no known exits. The goal was simple: find a way out before dehydration set in. The Krulaks charged ahead. As always, a few vanished beneath the sand. The humans walked. Slowly, strategically, Rourke took the lead, setting a rhythm. Rena monitored sun positions and wind patterns, sketching theories of exit points. Dev documented dehydration symptoms, keeping tabs on their pulse and temperature. They stopped to bury a fallen Zyrem under rocks, and though it cost them time, none of them hesitated. 3 hours in, the sand shimmered and revealed a shadow, a canyon, shelter. As they descended into the cool darkness, Dev turned to Rourke. "You think they're impressed yet?" "They're re-evaluating." At the summit chamber, the council gathered for the standings. The hologram pulsed with names, rankings, survival time, cooperation metrics. Team Earth, 2nd place overall, 1st in adaptability, 1st in civilian support metrics. The crowd fell into a stunned silence. A Krulak's general stood, slow and looming. "This is an error." "It is not," replied the prime speaker. "The humans have demonstrated qualities consistent with high-threat species. They are underdeveloped, primitive, fragile." And yet, the speaker interrupted. "They endure." Rourke stepped forward. "We were told this summit was for survivors. That's what we are. We survive, not because of claws or fireblood or titanium hides, but because we endure things no one should and keep going anyway." For a moment, even the air seemed to pause. The session ended without ceremony. Delegates filed out, quieter than before. Back in their quarters, Rena sat by the window, watching twin moons cast ripples over the alien ocean. "I think they are starting to realize we're not the weakest," she said softly. "No," Rourke replied, removing her boots. "They are realizing they've never really understood what strength is." And out there, in the chambers of power, the galaxy started to wonder, had inviting the humans been a diplomatic mistake, or the first warning? They came for them in the middle of the artificial night cycle. No alarms, no diplomatic pretense. Just 6 armored figures, silent, faceless, and bristling with neural disruptors, appearing outside the humans' quarters like shadows with authority. One of them lifted a hand, and the door hissed open. Commander Rourke was already awake, boots on, her weapon holstered but within reach. She didn't move for it. "Yet, state your purpose," she said, her voice steel tempered with ice. "By order of the Apex Tribunal," the lead enforcer replied, "Earth's delegation is to be taken into immediate custody for reassessment under Article 7. Rena stumbled from the sleeping chamber, her hair tangled, confusion etched deep into her features. "Reassessment? What does that even mean?" "It means," Dev said quietly, recording from behind the edge of the bunk, "someone scared." The enforcers advanced. Rourke stepped in front of her team. "You will have to explain that to me," she said, very slowly. One of the enforcers moved to bind her wrists. He never made it. Rourke twisted, swept his legs, and sent him crashing into the wall with a sickening crunch. Before the others could react, she was on her feet, hand on her sidearm, not drawn, but ready, The moment hung suspended in tension. "We're a peaceful delegation," she said. "But touch us again, and we'll teach you about consequences." There was a pause, a silent consultation among the masked forces. Then the leader stepped back. "You will accompany us to the tribunal chamber. Voluntarily." Rourke didn't lower her guard. "You try that stunt again, and next time I won't be so polite." Minutes later, they were escorted into a chamber unlike any they had seen before, cold, metallic, and devoid of ornament. No glowing banners, no dramatic entrances. Just a long, raised dais where 7 tribunal members sat, ancient, powerful, and veiled behind translucent screens. The central voice echoed through the room, layered as if multiple beings were speaking at once. "Earth has become a variable. You have disrupted the accepted classifications of survival. It is problematic." Rena blinked, still processing. "We participated in the events as instructed. We followed the rules." "The rules were never written for you," another voice said, bitter and sharp. "You were not meant to thrive." Dev stepped forward, his camcorder still running. "So we're being punished for not dying on schedule." Murmurs rippled among the tribunal. One figure shifted, annoyed. "You reveal too much unpredictability," the first voice continued. "Your psychology defies pattern. Your civilization's progress does not align with natural galactic trajectories. In less than 2 centuries, you breached orbit, disrupted multiple biospheres, annihilated yourselves repeatedly, and yet rebuilt faster each time. You evolved in chaos, and worse, you adapted to it." Rourke didn't flinch. "And that scares you. It destabilizes the existing hierarchy." There it was, the core of the conflict laid bare. The Deathworld Summit was never just about survival. It was about maintaining an order, a balance of power among apex species, where strength had clear metrics and evolution followed predictable arcs. The humans hadn't just bent those expectations. They had broken them and rebuilt something strange in their place. "We didn't come here to disrupt your hierarchy," Rourke said. "We came because someone invited us." "That mistake," one of the tribunal murmured, "is already being corrected." From the side of the chamber, a projection flickered into life. Earth! Cities blinking out. Satellites vanishing. An orbital blockade forming. Quiet, strategic, already halfway done. "They are quarantining us," Rena whispered. "Correction," the voice echoed. "We are protecting the galaxy from a contagion of chaos." The silence that followed was thick enough to suffocate. Dev was the first to break it. "You think because we don't fit into your neat little boxes that we're a threat. But maybe what you're really afraid of is that your boxes are too small." One of the tribunal slammed a limb down. Metal rang out like thunder. "You are children playing with matches." "Maybe," Dev said, "but you're standing in a forest made of dry leaves." Rourke stepped forward, her tone coldly respectful. "You've already made your move. Earth's being isolated. You've chosen fear over understanding. So tell me what happens next. Do you erase us from the record? Pretend it never happened?" "No," the voice said. "We offer a single choice. Withdraw your presence from the summit. Renounce your classification. Return to isolation." "And if we don't?" Rena asked, softly. The tribunal didn't answer. The humans were escorted back to their quarters, this time, not under guard, but under surveillance, the kind that watched through walls and listened to every breath. Still, none of them spoke until the door hissed shut. "We're being erased diplomatically," Rena said, sitting heavily. "Vanish without a war." "It's a smart move," Dev admitted. "Quiet. Clean. No martyrs. Just silence." Rourke paced slowly, tension radiating from every step. "They're afraid of us because we don't conform. We adapt too fast. Learn too much. We turned every trial into a team exercise. We shared knowledge. Supported other species. That's what makes us dangerous," Rena said. "Not our strength. Our cohesion." Dev looked up from his camcorder. "So what do we do?" Rourke stopped. Her gaze burned with clarity. "We survive. We document. We speak. They want silence, but we'll give them truth." Beyond the walls of their room, the summit continued, Less vibrant, more subdued. Delegates who had once scoffed at the humans now whispered. Some had begun studying Earth's culture, history, resilience. Seeds of doubt were taking root. The tribunal's decision had been clear, but the humans weren't finished, and the galaxy was starting to listen. The summit's final day arrived under a veil of tension so thick it felt manufactured, as if the very air filtration system had been altered to compress silence. Every species walked the halls a little more carefully, their glances sharper, their conversations clipped. The humans were still present, though their participation had been officially suspended pending review. But they had not withdrawn, and that choice sent tremors deeper than any open defiance. Commander Rourke stood on the summit's central platform, not scheduled to speak, not granted permission. And yet, she stood there, a single figure beneath the glow of the galactic seal, hands clasped behind her back, as delegates slowly gathered. The tribunal had tried to ignore them. That was no longer an option. "They think we're going to fold," Dev said, from the corner of the broadcast room where he had piggybacked into the summit's internal feeds. They thought being excluded meant silence. I hope they enjoy the opposite. Rena adjusted a transmitter she'd hidden in her jacket lining, syncing with auxiliary frequencies. We tapped into 50% of the local spectrum. Maybe more if the Krelov system holds. "Won't last long," Dev muttered. "But long enough." Rourke's voice rang out. No amplification. Just her voice, and still it carried. "We came here as guests. We followed your rules. We proved ourselves. And when we succeeded, you tried to erase us." No interruption came. "Not yet. You fear us not because we are violent, but because we are dissonant. We refuse to adhere to what you call evolution. We evolve in catastrophe. We thrive in disorder. And worst of all, we bring that truth with us wherever we go." A screen flickered on, an unplanned override. The face of a Yati elder appeared, chitin pale and luminescent. "You are destabilizing the Accord." Rourke looked directly into the camera. "No, we're revealing the cracks that were already there." Dev switched the feed. Broadcasting moment from the trials, footage of the humans helping fallen competitors, innovating on the fly, enduring what others could not. Then spliced interviews, testimonies, confessions. The humans didn't just compete, a Chlorvaxin medic said. They made others stronger. They were supposed to be fragile, a Kulaks engineer admitted, but they wouldn't break. It wasn't their biology, a Zyreme scholar offered. It was their refusal to be alone. Rena's voice crackled through the internal comms, steady and soft. "They are listening." In the tribunal chamber, the apex convened in haste, their projections fractured under the surge of open transmission. The veil of authority was not meant for this kind of scrutiny. "We cannot allow species with such volatility to propagate unchecked," one of the tribunal members hissed. Another answered, tone quieter. "But what if that volatility is the next step?" The vote to classify humanity as a Class A anomaly, beyond regulation, to be monitored indefinitely, was narrowly blocked. The proposal to quarantine Earth remained tabled, unresolved. Outside the chambers, other delegates began to speak. Quiet at first, then louder. "If the humans are exiled for succeeding," said a delegate from the icy world of Vira, "what does that say about us who failed?" "We accepted the invitation," murmured another. "We cannot pretend they were not invited." A day later, a formal announcement was issued. Earth would not be removed from the summit, nor classified as a threat, for now. Their status would be reviewed continually under close observation. An ambiguous compromise. A delay tactic, but a crack in the dam. In the humans' quarters, the mood was subdued but resolute. "That's not a victory," Rena said, packing up her sketch pads and field notes. "No," Rourke agreed. "It's a beginning." Dev leaned back, arms behind his head. A warning wrapped in a handshake. Classic galactic diplomacy. Rena looked to Rourke. "You think they'll come for us again?" "Definitely," she said. "But next time, they won't underestimate us." They left the summit as they had arrived. Quietly, on a diplomatic cruiser barely worthy of notice. But the difference was this: everyone noticed now. Delegations that had once scoffed sent encrypted messages of curiosity, collaboration. A few even asked for copies of Earth's trial footage, requesting analysis frameworks for resilience modeling. The humans had gone from anomaly to reference point, and far away, on Earth, as the ship re-entered solar territory, a message pulsed through the relay. Transmission from Galactic Core. Status update. Humanity. Unresolved variable. Monitor continuously. Do not engage without consideration. Rourke read it once, then deleted it. Let them watch, she said, because the humans were done surviving. They were just getting started.